Fear is the closest relative to the truth. We create the world that we created. We create control points. So we can have, excuse me, so we can have the ability to intake the information at a slower rate, because fear essentially is you giving away your control to something you don't understand. That's why so many people fear stuff. That's why in order for you to get over your fears, you need to understand what is it that you're afraid of, that you need to stand up to. And that's why the story of the dragon, the story of fighting some demon, all this other stuff, the story of people fighting God, it's like same stories. It all comes down to control. So like humans' biggest humans' biggest obstacle that we need to overcome is letting go of things that are out of our control. Stop trying to control everything. The moment you try to control everything, the moment you try to shape things to your understanding, is the moment chaos starts to arise. Because in order for that to only work, you have to essentially be completely by yourself, like 100% of the time. Which I don't think really works, because you're never by yourself, especially if you're living on Earth. Like, you still have to be part of nature. But then again, I guess people manipulate nature. That's why humans, people with a lot of doubt, I guess, get to a point that they have so much, they've been obsessed with control for so long that they essentially want to reshape how everything works. And that's why we have all these people trying to basically tell you what to do and what not to do. And they modify things and they kind of do it as whatever they want. But that's essentially what it comes down to. It's just fear. These people are just really afraid to be alive. Not even just to be alive. Like, I think the biggest fear most people have is death. And the reason why we fear death so much is because, again, we don't understand it. It's just lack of understanding. It's like, okay, your eyes go black and then that's it. Like, as far as you go. Like, so that's what some people believe. Some people haven't sat down and really try to really think about what death is to them and like what death understands. And then all these cultures, if you notice back in time, all these cultures that, I don't know if you remember, but have you looked up and researched and at least what the document stuff in the book state, excuse me, that the book state is that, essentially they all figure out what happens after death. They've been telling us this story for a long time, but the moment you figure out what happens after death, people start experimenting even more, and then what you end up finding is what we call angels, demons, gods, and all this other stuff. It's people who have the ability to come back as they please after the flesh dies. So if you could master that means you could do as you please. You could go between worlds, right? And this is, I guess, whatever world. I have a new theory. I don't think we live in the 3D world. I think we live in a 6D world. I think we're 6D creatures. We're not 3D creatures. That's how we that's how we always say, we're the middle people. We've always been the middle people. Very long time. We always been in the middle. In height, you put all the smallest beings to the largest beings that we know, right? We're directly in the middle, right? When it comes to size, right? We're the middle. Why? It's always been something really interesting to me, and it's like why is number one? Everybody he says, why is our number one component of life is carbon? And what is carbon in the periodic table? Is 6, okay? And then you have, how many things can carbon connect to? So it's 4 things, right? So then if you think about it, who are you as a person? You're essentially 4 things, right? You're the mind, body, and soul, right? But they always miss one thing. They always miss the ether. That's what puts you together. You are these four components. We need those four components in order for us to thrive. And what is the ether? That fire that burns down slow. I think in order for humans, in order to upgrade themselves, they need to fight their demons. Essentially, that's what it is. You need to overcome your fears, your demons, your fears, your anxiety, whatever the fuck you want to call it. You need to overcome that in order to upgrade yourself, right? Because if you can't overcome that, that means you can't move on to the next step. Because the next step is like fear has to be out of you by that point. And I don't mean like fear forever, because you're always going to have fear, because it's always going to be something new, something unknown, right? Because essentially what you end up finding is when you go down this path is there's always something. Something is always something out of after something, right? It's like, okay, like, say you build a wall, right? You build a wall, you use all these materials. But then, yeah, the wall stays up for a long time. Wow. And then you end up finding out is that you need some maintenance over time. And I think that's what human creation failed, right? Human creation needs constant maintenance most of the time. Unless we use nature's at a base level. We always need to maintain it because over time it deteriorates, right? What's the one thing that basically takes out everything? It's water. Water basically comes and cleans up, right? So, and that's why if you read, you understand that they talk about before life started on earth, right? The soul walks over the body of water. Soul walks over the body of water. Why is that? Essentially, water and carbon, that's how they connect, right? So you have H2O, right? Two H's, right? One O. Then you have carbon, right? Well, what does that make? I'm curious. I need to look that up. Obviously, if you combine them, but then you have one thing, there's one opening on it. I guess you could put a salt, maybe, balance things out. I mean, that's what you have to see. Interesting. I mean, it makes sense. Like, well, why wouldn't you create life like that? The most abundant thing on earth, like, by far. I have a lot of water. Not all of it is drinkable, but, we have lots of water around us. I mean, at least we've been told. And yeah, all of this is like you gotta listen to stories, you gotta read stuff. And one thing I've gotten better as I got older. Excuse me. As I got older is that I don't take everything verbatim. I don't take everything straight to the head. Like, I read and I'm like, okay, this is a good story. A lot of good knowledge, and then I keep doing research about it. And I'm like, okay, then, it takes me years to conclude what is it that came to be. But then I'm also the type of person that if what I've read was incorrect and somebody points out something new, that I'm like, okay, the debates that I listen to it, because you have to listen to debates. A lot of people don't like their word to be debated, right? The moment your word starts being debated is the moment you basically stop understanding. It's really easy to stop understanding, right? Just because, again, humans are so easy to deceive, right? It's like so easy to deceive because they're very dependent on their senses, right? So if their senses feel threat, then that's where fear comes from. Your senses essentially be threatened, right? And then you basically go in flight or fight mode, right? And then you end up finding most humans they flight, right? they don't like to fight. Right? I think 99%, 99%, that's a little high. Say 90% of humans. Maybe 95, I would say. 95% of humans on a flight and fight mode, most of them flight, you know? It's what they were designed to be, right? And the reason we were designed that is because we kind of work like insects, right? The same concept where with insects, let's say a colony or something, there's a percentage of them just fly away. Like they just want to go away, right? But they come back. And this is the weirdest part about all of this, right? If you notice an insect, right, you fuck with them for a while, they start fucking with you or whatever. After a while you go in a battle, right? And then eventually they still come back, right? How long do they survive? Not much, but essentially that's what we end up doing, right? Eventually the circle of life comes back to you, but essentially what you do is you have to overcome that fear, that obstacle, right? And what you end up finding is that the same story always plays along. Now we have video games, right? And then you have a story, right? You go play it, right? You fail a mission or you fail to win or whatever it is, and then you play it again. And then you play it again, you play it again. And sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. But some games are like one time, like you pass the mission, that's as far as you go. You move on to the next one. And when you move on to the next one, then new challenge and obstacles come up to beat, right? And that's where you have to decide how you're going to live your life. That's when you need to start choosing, are you going to be a firefly kind of guy or are you just not going to challenge yourself ever? There's people who live in a bubble. And they don't believe they need to be challenged, right? But that's alright. Everybody has their own path. Everybody's trying to learn at their own pace. You have to be respectful about that. It's another thing I had to learn as I got older. You gotta be respectful for people's process as they're learning knowledge. Not everybody's learning at the same curvature you're learning. Not everybody comprehends as fast as you comprehend. Nobody breaks down stuff as far as you break it down, So, just life. Wow. Good day.